Hello, screenwriters. We are back for another episode of Five Questions with a Screenwriter. And the screenwriter we have today with us is Kevin Bigley. Kevin, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, and I was just telling Kevin that, before we started recording, we were just chatting, and then Kevin was giving me a lot of like good stuff, right? I'm thinking I should have been recording this. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone.
I'll try to remember it. I'll retread.
Okay, all right. Let's get started. All right. Question number one. What are three screenplays every new writer should read, in your opinion?
Man, it's a really good question. I find that like the there's two easy ones that really stick out to me. One is, and this is just my own thing. Is Larry McMurtry's HUD. I think I love Lonesome Dove. I think it's great, but also it's just his sense of dialogue and how people talk. It's so like from my own world. So I would say that this is a personal choice. However, I will say that he perfectly balances poetic dialogue while also having it feel grounded and colloquial. So I think so many writers really want to like speak theme and put voice to theme. And I'm a heavy theme writer. And then there are writers who just go, I don't want to even deal with theme. I think that McMurtry balances both very, very well, dealing with theme and voicing it without voicing it too obviously. It's just a really well crafted screenplay and how people talk and how things can feel so loaded. McMurtry kind of has that feeling of like being like, I mean, he's a contemporary of Cormac McCarthy's and such, so it feels a lot like that. Another one I would say would be Halloween. Halloween is so bare bones. It's just so streamlined, and it feels just really, really sharp and terrifying. And it's just but it's such a fun, easy read, and I think it really kind of hits in this way that that you go, oh, I don't really have to express everything in these action lines. Sometimes you feel like you have to say more and have it feel like like so literary, but really, I mean, you can just be very, very bare bones. I would also say that this is a more oddball choice, but Confessions of a Dangerous Mind is one of my favorite screenplays in reading it because I really like Charlie Kaufman. I think most writers like Charlie Kaufman. Yes. He's a writer's writer to a degree. But there's also this really cool way of like how simplified everything is again, but then he can get expressive and weird. He breaks all sorts of rules. So there's a way of like, it's kind of the antithesis of Halloween. And then the other one that I'll say as an honorable mention, because I help out at the high school where in this, I live up in Lake Arrowhead in this like small mountain town outside of LA. And I help out at the high school with the AV department and the theater kids. And so I help them with screenplay stuff. And the one that I show them all the time is when we were breaking down like writing and how to like set up, how to transfer stuff from the page to the screen is like shot concepts and stuff, is I show them Signs. We like read through Signs. And I really like that movie. It's like a very fun movie. But like the writing of like the actual screenplay is so clunky and ridiculous at times. Like it's really sloppy. And there's all this stuff that's so heavy handed that he ends up scrapping. But I think it's a really important one that I show the kids because it shows them that this stuff doesn't have to be perfect, and even these really cool sequences that Shyamalan like figures out, he doesn't have it figured out when it's on the page. Like it's the script is also part of, especially if you're making your own stuff, part of the process of getting to the screen. So yeah.
I want to say this is a first on Five Questions, an honorable mention. No one has ever had it's kind of cool. No one has ever had an honorable mention before, and the fact that it was a good one because like that's a great example because you mentioned like the script is like sloppy and it's all over the place. However, like Signs became like a huge hit. It was like a huge hit. So that's a great example. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, I had one of the kids. I had him read as was part, and one of the parts is like Mel Gibson's character, like Graham, like when he's going out into the corn as he's fed the dog, and he goes out there and he goes, you're not going to get famous off me or whatever, and he starts to leave, and you see he drops the flashlight, you see the pivot of the figure. In the script, there's this monologue that he's saying to himself, and he's talking to his dead wife, and he's saying like, I don't know why you had to leave, and all this stuff, and it is the most heavy-handed, terrible writing. And he must have gotten to this point that, but there's so much stuff that that he wrote that when he went to go shoot, he was like, I don't need any of this crap. And there's all this stuff where, like I was saying with Halloween, where you put stuff in, and then as you get to set, sometimes you're like, why are we doing this? We don't need any of this. Let's just go, just shrink it down.
Speaking of Halloween, I know that script doesn't have a lot of dialogue, right? So I'm curious, how many pages is the actual screenplay? I haven't read it yet.
It's pretty short. I thought it was like a clean 90 or something, but the action lines are also really bare bones. And it's very well written at the same time. And it's available online. You can get that at like what's this, like Script Slug or whatever. Just Google it. And it's just such a nice, clean, expedited. I mean, it's lean, and all these rules and things that they just don't break. Where it's like there's action lines they never exceed really 4, or it's like they follow all those Hollywood standard type rules. It's great. So I really do love it. I like format a lot. I like when things are clean. And another one I show them is the kids is Saving Private Ryan. Is that opening sequence and how orchestrated everything is, and it's so visual. Not the opening sequence at the graveyard, but when they're storming Normandy, it's just so well written, but it's not overwritten, and it's so visual, but it follows rules of format, and I think it's so nice when a screenwriter has those rules and follows those rules, because some people will be like, oh, they're directing from the page, but I like that because it's like I feel it's very well taken care of.
So who wrote Saving Private Ryan? I know Spielberg directed it. I'm not sure who wrote it.
I thought Spielberg had like a heavy hand in it. Obviously, it seems like from the visuals of how it's written, it's like how he's gonna shoot it. Like, oh, exactly. I know all these shots. Like it's so finely stitched. So yeah, I really do love that script.
All right. So question number 2 is actually it's interesting because I know you teach kids. You work with them with screenwriting, so I'm sure they read a lot of books. So this question might be very relevant. Okay. Question number 2: what is something a screenwriter will never learn in a book?
A screenwriter will never learn in a book. I would say like. I think you'll never learn what your own voice is. There's so much of screenwriting books, and then books and like screenwriting books in a lot of ways are just reading autopsy reports. I think they're like you read something of like how it lived and what it did and all those things, and you can learn aspects of storytelling. But when it comes to like your own voice, it's really it's never going to tell you what to write. It can tell you certain aspects of how to write, but so much of like when I teach these kids, so much of the process is coming up with your own, latching on to some authentic creative identity, which is hard. You're not going to have that in high school right away, but like oftentimes, like this last year, I wrote a script recently, and I to take them through the process of writing a script. I was also going through that process. And every time I go through the process of writing a script, I start with like a series of films that I've been watching recently that I really, really love. And then I take those and I start kind of below that coming up with all of these adjectives and phrases that have like some correlation, like where they kind of link in their own way. And then at a certain point, once I have like this big paragraph of like what they all have in common to a certain degree, and they're not all going to share the same thing, but they'll have a few things of it. Oh, cool. These are all like when I was talking to the kids, they'd be like, oh, well, it looks like you like a lot of ensemble movies and you like a lot of comedies, but you also like there's three of them are dystopian. And then here, these ensembles aren't really working together really well, so then I would help the kids come up with a creative statement. My name is so and so, and I like stories that use ensemble in a creative way, usually up against something that they don't understand, that blend horror and sci-fi or whatever, so it's like coming up with this thing. And then from there, you springboard into coming up with your own ideas, so to come up with like a series of 20 sentences, and ideas that kind of feel something like that premise, like, just like really reduced premises that we can then flesh out later. So, to show them that it's all a process of like building your own voice and finding your own way. And that's going to take a lot of analyzing your own taste, and kind of creative excavation, and mining and finding what you're actually into, and aspects of like we were saying before this. A lot of writers, when they read these books and things, they go, oh, I should write something commercial that's going to sell. You could, or you could write something. Maybe that's not what you deep down really want to write right now. Like there are a lot of writers who waste a lot of time trying to write things that they think they're supposed to write versus the things that they actually write. Whether it be like, I want to write something really literary and really something that I'll write and people will read and they'll respect my writing. Or that's the thing of like we talked about like with Spielberg or something, or Signs or something. It's like, what if I just want to write like a really cool like an alien thing, or like actually, like what am I watching? How am I spending my time? Because that also really informs taste. I could, it's like when you give someone, when you go like, what are your top 5 favorite albums? And they'll name like this Beatles record, this, and then you look at their Spotify and it's like, you've been listening to a lot of Eminem. It's like we're fantastic, like that guilty pleasure or escapism, all those things are also part of your taste and they shouldn't be ignored. So I think that so much of us, we get caught up in this, what we think we should be writing and versus what we actually like and taste and going back. That's my long answer.
It's funny you mentioned like none of my top 5 albums. I don't think any of the songs are on my Spotify list right now.
I know. Yeah. Exactly. Because you know them so well.
Yeah.
There's so many. I mean, if I named my top 5 favorite movies, some of them I will rewatch all the time, but there's others I've only seen like twice because I don't need to, because it feels so implanted and impacted, within your brain where you're like, I don't need to necessarily revisit that right now,
Speaking of your favorite movies, this next question, I wonder if you're going to take something from one of your favorite movies or not. Question number 3. What is the greatest character arc you've seen in the story?
Okay. The greatest character arc. I think I really love structure, and I love sometimes like when a movie does something that's like anti-structure, in that, they're like, you read these screenwriting books, so many things are based on character change, character shift. I really love sometimes when characters resist the change a little bit. Not that I've necessarily, and look, I appreciate this as an observer. Not necessarily like my stuff doesn't necessarily reflect this, but I love Animal House so much, and I love that in that movie, as the stakes continue to increase, as any film does, and as these characters in Delta House are met with a problem, they like convene and they go, we got to deal with this. And then they go, okay, well, what are we going to do? We're about to get kicked out of the university. okay, let's throw a party. Like it's like just like every like problem is met with like a rejection of the actual plot and like stakes and everything. You know, they're going to have a meeting with the board, and is their fraternity going to get thrown out? And then they go and they meet, and they just like Otter makes an ass out of himself. You know, it's like they don't, and it's just so absorbed in irony. You know, like it's just so great. I would also say probably Bill Murray in Ghostbusters is the same way. It's like the stakes keep getting higher and higher as New York is becoming this, you know, paranormal hotbed, and yet here's Bill Murray, you know, while everyone on the team of the Ghostbusters are freaking out. Like, and Ray is like, oh my God, the containment center, and Egon's like, oh, well, there's like a, you know, we're gonna have a meltdown, and all of a sudden, you know, the paranormal activity spiking. Bill Murray's just like trying to get laid the whole time. I just love like a resistance of stakes. I think it's a really good comedic device. So, you know, I love that. So I think even sometimes, yeah, like a lack of arc is really funny.
Well, that's interesting. I like that character who resists the change.
Right.
That's a gem right there.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I
All
dropped
right.
the gem.
Question number 4. What was the first screenplay you wrote, and what was that writing process like?
Oh man, the first screenplay I wrote was really bad. But you know, I think someone
As it should be.
as it should be. Someone had said, I think that like I don't remember who it was. It was like everyone's first, especially male. Most men like their first screenplay is usually a road comedy or something. So I wrote this. I wrote this screenplay
Uh,
with my friend that was, and it was such a terrible title. It was like it was like the names of the characters. It was called Jay and Ronnie. It was like gives you nothing. And it was these two characters who are outcasts in an office, and they decide to they want to become popular, so they pull a prank on their boss, and they end up killing him on accident. And so then they try to like, that's like, it's an interesting enough, like I look at that now and I go, okay, then the rest of the movie is like Weekend at Bernie's is just them going on a road trip to get rid of the body. And it was like, why did you go on a road trip to get rid of a body? Like makes no sense. If I'm rewriting it now, I'd be like, no, just stay at the office. And like, you know, like they bury the body and what's going to happen. Like, way more hijinks that way. But for whatever reason, I just wanted them to go on a road trip, and they went on a road trip with like a dead body. It was, you're like, is it R? Is it PG-13? It was probably 150 pages, so it was like this massive, long thing. There was no structure. So I think it was, but if I can empathize with the writer in me then that was like trying to figure those things out. I was having so much fun with my buddies coming up with jokes. We would just come up with jokes. It was all these jokes and no structure. And then I did like this table read with some friends who were like actual screenwriters. And they, first off, this table read of the reading of the script, because like the action lines were like blocks. You know, I didn't read Hollywood Standard. I didn't read a screenplay book. I didn't even read Save the Cat. I didn't know how this whole thing worked.
Yeah.
And interiors and exteriors, my slug lines were all messed up, and I got destroyed. Like they were my friends, but they ripped me apart. And they're like, "This makes no sense. I don't know what you're doing here. This is bad. I don't know why they're on the road. None of the formatting." And one of my buddies took me aside afterwards, and he goes, "Read these books," which was, you know, just your general screenwriting books like Save the Cat or something.
Yeah.
Are very simple, Hollywood Standard. He goes, then go back. And he goes, and you can just cut. You can just cut stuff down. And then it was like, oh, okay. And then it was like someone gave me the keys to the kingdom a little bit to be like, oh yeah, I could read those, this and that. Yeah, it was so orchestrated around being funny rather than like, you know, actually how do you write something? How do you write a movie?
The fact that you said like it's a road trip comedy in 150 pages, I don't even
Yeah.
think like I don't even think like period pieces are like that long.
Most road trips last that long. I know it was like it was so crazy, and yeah, and it was absolutely ridiculous. I cut it down like way down, and then still it just didn't work. And then my next one was much better. I was like, okay, I had another table read and it worked, and but that one was really bad. But God, I thank God for that experience because to sit at that table and then just to get my ass kicked by my friends, it really made me go, okay, do you really want to do this? Because
Yeah.
and what you have to do to get better, like you really have to. I mean, the whole career in a lot of ways is getting punched in the face, but you have to take the beating up front.
And the fact that it's your friends, because like I'm sure like strangers will hit you even harder, or like people you don't know. So
Mhm.
it's good that you got I guess battle scars from your friends, because it's going to I'm sure like it gets tougher from others, right?
Such a good lesson because had people who were like, "It's okay. What you got to do is there was no hand holding. It was
Yeah.
like this is bad. This is really bad, Kevin. Don't show this to anybody." I was like, "Got it. Okay, cool, great. Okay." So, but it taught me to really kind of you do have to. You can get better. You can get better, and you're going to write something terrible, and that's what I tell the students too. It's like I give my thing with them, and this is a well repeated thing, but I just go, you have to give yourself. There's this myth that they always think that it's like you sit down at a computer and you write a script and it's great, and you don't go. It's not. They forget the editing part. They don't know the editing part, and I think what I tell them is you have to give yourself permission to suck because you're going to learn way more when you suck. Like, you're sharpen your game, making all these mistakes and messing up and writing really bad stuff. You'll start off bad and then you'll move into the territory that's mediocre. You'll be stuck there for quite a while and it'll be really, really frustrating because you just want things to live up to your taste. And, we talk about formulating taste and then the agony of your own work not living up to the things that you love. It's very brutal. Not to say that I've just excelled way beyond that space, but your idea of successful art and voice begins to change a little bit. This is droning on, but George Saunders has this really, who's one of my favorite writers, is one of many people's favorite writers, but he talked about, mimicry is part of art, is part of an artistic process that you're going to create stuff that is mimicking in a lot of ways your favorite writers, right? And he said he spent so much time trying to climb this mountain that is Hemingway Mountain. He wanted to sound like Hemingway. All of his short stories were sounding like Hemingway. And then he realized that no matter what, he's never going to be able to ascend that mountain. And then as he climbed down, he found this little, I don't know if I can swear here. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
And he's like, here's this little pile of shit. And he goes, and this is George Saunders' shit hill. And he goes, and you have to stand on that shit hill and you have to go, this is my voice, which is a better voice in its own right because I love Hemingway, but like Saunders is modern, he's comedic, he's all he's dark and he's, ironic and all these really brilliant facets that he was robbing himself of because he was so obsessed with being this modern minimalist. And it's like, he goes, as you stand on this shithill and you own what your creative voice is, it'll start to grow and accumulate and become its own little mountain. But you have to acknowledge those aspects of self. You have to stop. Mimicry is part of it, but then you
Yeah.
have to kind of shift.
All right, we are at the final question. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Question number 5. All right. You get to plan and go on a non-romantic date / hangout with your current main character. What does that date look like?
With my current main character, like the project we were working on right now.
Yeah, if some of them, obviously, if it's something you can't talk about, that's fine. But just like I guess if you can't talk about it, then a previous main character. Just how would you and your main character hang out?
They'd all be nightmares. I'd say that Well, let's say that the worst hangout would be Jay and Ronnie because it would be too long. It would be a long road
With a
trip.
dead body.
It would be a nightmare, and I'd constantly be trying to edit it and make it work. I'd say we did this film Okie that came out in November, and it was about this writer who returns to his kind of dilapidated hometown, and he's written these pretentious novels, and he's used the people from his childhood as like characters. And he's definitely abused them and used their stories and stuff, and he's painted them out terribly, which is kind of my nightmare. Because sometimes I write from a place of where I come from, which is very rustic. But if I were to come home and if I felt like I ever misused anybody's stories, and this guy is very pretentious, so I think I would be very curious. I think I would have a really good time mining that person, like really talking to them and being like, how did you get to be like, because in so many ways that character, like I said, is my worst case scenario. Like I would never want to become that. So I would love to. We'd probably go to some expensive sushi place and or cocktail bar or something, and he would just probably rant to me about how he's a genius. And I think from a creative experiment, I would probably feed it, and I'd want to hear about it because he's kind of writer ego personified. When it comes to our current thing, we wrote this. I wrote the script where we were hopefully going to do that. I point to my wife, who's upstairs, who's the director. She directed Okie, but it's about this guy who this lives in this small town, and he hires a documentary filmmaker to follow him around because he believes he's going to be abducted by aliens. So, just this grand disillusionment, or is there something to it? But I think, funny enough, the date would probably be a lot like the movie itself because the movie is just him showing this person his life. So I think no matter what you did, he'd probably just kind of take control of the whole thing and show you his whole, he lives in a trailer in this campsite and stuff. So yeah, it probably would just kind of become the movie itself. Not as fun. Probably take Jay and Ronnie. Actually, I think that would.
Oh, Jay and Ronnie. Will we ever see Jay and Ronnie again?
No. I wonder if I could. I would love. What a great experiment that would be, just of like my own tolerance and like of being able to read your first screenplay that you ever wrote. Like that now would be. I wrote that 15 years ago. I mean, I would be so curious what it looks like, how it reads, and all that stuff. But what's cool is that you go back and I don't know, it's all part of getting you where you are. So you have to have love and affection, empathy for that old, the writer who didn't know how to express themselves and then was still trying to figure out exactly how to do this whole thing.
Yeah. All right. This has been 5 questions with screenwriter Kevin Bigley. Kevin, thank you so much for going through the 5 questions with us. And I do want to ask you. I think you probably just answered this already unknowingly. But are you currently writing anything at the moment?
We are. I wrote the script that my wife and I did. That we've been starting to work together more on scripts, and she's director, and I think we're going to do this thing that is kind of mockumentary found footage based. So that's the whole thing. So we're excited about it because I think it's just it's a good time for that because people are kind of tightening the pocketbooks a little bit in this industry. And the bad thing is about that is it's harder to get stuff made. But the good thing is that if you know how to make stuff, especially make stuff for cheap, then you can get things done. So we're going to kind of exploit that loophole and try to do that. And then, I think that's about it. And then just kind of letting kind of some of the new ideas kind of come to us.
So what's a recent TV show or film that you've watched you would recommend to our viewers?
Oh, man. I would say recently on The film side. I don't know. We've been going back. We go back to a lot of stuff that we like. That we love, and I think that it always comes back to like Jeff Nichols kind of stuff that we really love. So, um, I would say Midnight Special is kind of his more Spielbergy kind of thing that we really. The I Shotgun Stories though is his first, and that to us really inspires us and just lets us know that like you can make something for really cheap and you can just get out there and do it, because screenwriting, while I feel really passionate about it, just as I feel as passionate about acting too, it's all part of the process. I feel like we're just like, how do we if we're focused on the writing, then we're focused on getting it made, and then we're focused on making it, and then we're focused on delivering it. So it's all part of the machine in its own way. So yeah.
And then lastly, is there anything that you want to share with our viewers? Anything, just anything.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that first off, from a promotional standpoint, we've got our film Okie that came out in November. I think it's on Tubi right now. Always fluctuates. But yeah, Okie, if you want to see our work, when it comes to from screenwriter to screenwriter and to screenwriters, I think just try to develop a better connection. I'm constantly trying to do this of like what you actually enjoy and follow the bliss of those things. And also, I always look at the Reddits and everything, and I think so many people get so caught up in finding representation and that managers and agents and people who will try to do things for you. I'm in my 30s and we've made 2 movies now. We're in post on our second that I didn't write but executive produce on. And it's Okie was and both were made for, around the million budget, like and a $1 million budget, and it's still hard. Like nothing's getting easier. Like it's still we're about to make something that's like found footage, like super cheap, and we've gone to festivals and we've got distribution and things don't necessarily get that much easier. I think it's just that you really have to, but I see all these people on Reddit being like, if I could just get a manager, if I could just get an agent. And, we just we've parted ways with a lot of those reps because they don't really help. They don't really do anything. I think that they do things for you if you're part of the machine in a little bit bigger of a way, if you're, writing those big budget things. But so few of them actually help with if you're trying to make indie film where you just really want to make stuff. And that's the vast majority, because selling stuff is just, it's such a lottery ticket. It's so difficult. So I would say like really just focus on making undeniably good art. This is what I tell the kids at the school where they go, how do you do this? And I just go, the secret is you just have to work on getting good. Just focus on that. Don't focus on anything else. It's like what Steve Martin said, that where it's like, how do you break in? How do you break in? If you just get good, then they'll come and find you. Especially get good and then start putting stuff out there. They'll all come to you.
You know what? This is exactly why I created this show, for words of wisdom like that you just you just gave us. And so I hope all you screenwriters out there, you definitely take Kevin's words and then just get good, and then don't wait for anyone to like tell you when you could do your stuff.
No. Yeah.
Yep.
And believe me, we fall for the trap all the time. We'll make something and we'll wait for it to have a reaction. And then when we go start the new thing, we'll go, let's wait now to see. We're going to show the script to A, B, C, D, and we'll see what money they come with or blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't really work that way. Like unless I think it's like that Mark Duplass thing. We talk about it all the time in this house where it's like, you're waiting for the cavalry, and then you realize the cavalry is not coming. But then the beauty of that is that you are yourself the cavalry. But it gets super exhausting. You get definitely pretty jaded and you get really angry. But at the same time, that's part of the whole process. And then you end up, if you love making stuff, if you love being, part of this whole thing in that way, then then yeah, you then follow the bliss of just making what you want to make and saying what you want to say.
I'll leave it at that. You said it perfectly. All right, Kevin. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to link everything where you can find Okie and everything else in the description. All right.
Cool.